All right, so again, I got cut off there first a bit there. So basically, objects are things that you can control. Um, but when you have functions inside of an object, it's called a method, not a function. It's just a name change. It doesn't mean anything more than that. Okay, so and basically, when you have other things, they're called variables and functions. But when they're inside of an object, it's properties and methods. Okay, so I was saying attributes, but it's actually properties. Sorry. Properties and methods. Okay, so that's what you need to know. Now, there's a thing called dot notation. Um, Basically, what it means is that it's kind of like a file folder structure where, if I have something up here and I have, let's see, my desktop and then ghost it, and then, you can see how like there's a structure here, like basically same idea. So what I might do is have, well, here you go, right here you can see a good example. So let's say I have my enemy, and then I do dot transform, so the transform property, and then dot position, right? So the position, and then dot x, this specifically, and then I'm gonna set that to 10. Okay, so basically, it's almost like a chunk going down. So object transform position x, and I'm gonna assign it 10. Now that's the same thing for doing methods within objects as well. So if for some reason, actually one of them you could do is I could do enemy dot set active, which we've already done a bunch, and I could do equals false, or I'm sorry, assign it false. If you'll notice that the set active is a capital S, set active, and not a lowercase. If it's lowercase, it's a variable. If it's a uppercase letter that it starts with, it's a method. Okay, and that's basically one of the ways to know like what you're accessing. Okay, but that's basically how that works. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is just talk about this educational content. We're gonna go down here. So for the next basic assignment we're gonna do is create an educational program, and maybe anything that you like. Doesn't have to be. Don't say. It could be anything you like. It do something probably be the best thing that I would suggest for you. Okay. Three things that you typically have to take into consideration. Audience. Determine who you are going to be presenting this information to, your demographic. Who is the user? Is it a professional? Is it children? Is it adults? Is it goth kids? Is it clowns on unicycles? Is it, it depends. Depending on who you're presenting this to, you need to produce, that affects how it looks and how it needs to be interacted with. Okay. Obviously, if you're doing, let's say, senior citizens, your buttons need to be bigger. I mean, it sounds stupid, but that's the truth. It needs to be less pizzazzy, because you don't want to frighten them. But no, you want to make something that they feel is professional looking. First, determine that. That also is going to also change, what they're going to be capable of understanding. The next thing is goals. So basically, what you want to do is it's the overarching purpose. So you should have just for this a single goal. It's I want people to understand, that bears are going extinct. Like that's my biggest goal overall. Is I want people to know that polar bears are, really nice cuddly things. Okay, that's my goal. It's about polar bears. Then within that, the subcategories are your objectives. Like I want them to know that polar bears are white. I want them to know that polar bears eat seals. I want them to know that they live in the Arctic. You know what I mean? Like those are objectives within that goal. Those are like the specific things that I want my user to understand at the end of it. Now the important thing with objectives is that they have to be quantifiable, demonstratable, and have the ability to be evaluated. The reason for that is that you can't just say like they'll know this. How are you going to say that they know it? You just say that they know it. You don't know that, right? There's no way like, oh well, they just know. You have to be able to have them say yes. They can reiterate these facts about them. They can draw a polar bear. You have to be able to assess that knowledge was gained, and that they can demonstrate and replicate, and maybe change it in some way, but utilize that knowledge. Okay, so it's good because it's honestly you need to know whether what you're doing is working or not. Like, did what you taught, did you reach your objectives? Did that work? And and then if it didn't, then you can change and, change it for yourself. Okay. So it's a way of you learning how well you're doing. Okay. Good. Then what I have here is just a tutorial I want you guys to go through. It's basically, it's going to be good because it'll reinforce some of this. I go pretty quickly through it, but basically it's just a matching game. Okay. So simple game creation. You're just going to create a matching game of cards. If you go down to the bottom here, you can see where basically you can download the background asset. You can download the card assets. You can do your own cards. I don't really care. And you can download the scripts. You don't need to download the scripts. I'm going to write them in here. Quite honestly, you want to write them with me. Do not just plug in my scripts. You will get nothing from that. You're better off typing them out. It reinforces and helps you remember the information. If you just copy and paste it, you'll get nothing from it, and it'll defeat the whole purpose. Okay, so yeah, so that's that. So you need to complete that. Now, assignment 4. Basically, your next project is going to be create an interactive educational program. So one of the things that I've noticed, probably like the biggest thing, at least for myself, that I keep seeing is these interactive. I had to go through like training online, and it's like PowerPoint slides, and you click and you go next. It's kind of like we already did for the motion narrative, or they'll have you go through and you click and you make a puzzle, and it's basically they're trying to educate you about certain policies and things, and they try to do it in the most, I don't think it's the most entertaining way. They try to do it in some way that, is more than just talking at you and doing whatever. So basically, and you'll see a ton of that. I'm in Maryland now, and there's a bunch of military work out there, and a lot of what they do is they're trying to show people what they're creating. A lot of what they're doing is trying to train soldiers and the military in general about guns, or about tanks, and about different programs and things that they have out there. So they create these like educational things because they can get it into a broad audience, and it's interactive, so you're more likely to remember. Whenever you look at games are all about mastery. It's about learning, believe it or not. That's actually the main thing. That's why as you progress in a game, it gets more and more difficult. It has to be challenging, and as you progress, you start to master certain skills, and usually what they do is they throw new things on you, so you have to master those new skills. If you look at lions playing, that's what lions are doing, okay? Or any other animal. That's the reason why they play. It's to practice. It's to get better at those certain things. That's why when they're playing, they look like they're fighting, because that's what they need to do in the wild. They need to go and eat things, right? So, same thing that we do. We construct things, we create, because that's what's needed in our, for us in order to progress. Okay, so you're gonna create an educational, interactive educational program. It can be whatever you want, but for this first part, you're going to do your pre-production materials just like every other week. So what I want is this. I want you to, and when you create this too, there needs to be at least one interactive component, one animated component, and you're going to have test questions, okay, of some sort, just to see if they learned what it is that you were presenting, okay? So the first part of the project, though, is I want you to create a basic lesson plan. It's just going to be a Word document. I just want you to write what your target audience is, right? What your demographic, what the overall goal is, and then the objectives therein, okay? So your audience can be, that's pretty generic. The goal should just be like one line. And then you can have like maybe like, between 2 and 4 objectives, okay? Things that you want to cover, that you want people to know, like concretely, okay? These are like specific. Then also you're going to do is you're going to type up a sample quiz with answers, okay? Basically, because at the end you're going to have the quiz. I want you to type up what the quiz is. It has to be something that you can, like, don't make it like you type in. It has to be basically either true or false or multiple choice, so that they can click on that and then you can get the results from that, okay? So the sample quiz, so I would do like 4 questions. And then if it's multiple choice, give 4 different answers. Make sure you obviously highlight which one's the right one, but have those already in there as well. And if it's true and false, write which one's true. And then lastly, I want you to just do a mock-up, just a real simple illustration. You can just do it in Photoshop real quick of what generally it's going to look like. Okay, so if you're going to like teach something about the heart, obviously you might have like an illustration of a heart and then maybe buttons on the side, or like you click, or, just a basic idea of what it would sort of look like. Obviously, it's not finished art in any way. It's just so that you can see it. And that's basically what you need, is those three things. If you want to start, and I would suggest acquiring reference materials or images or whatever it is you're going to need, or start sketching up stuff, that is totally fine too. I would do that, like I said, just because, there's a lot of things that go into this. Or if you're going to do any animation in it, you could do that as well. Okay. So here's the rubric, and you can download the rubric there. And that is basically it. So go through this and do that, and we will see your stuff, and good luck.